Welcome to All Sides with Amy Jurovich. This is Fascinating Ohio, a show from All Sides and WOSU where we introduce you to people from the Buckeye State with an interesting story to tell. There are so many ways to fix breakfast, but what makes a restaurant's breakfast special special? Columbus has some serious chef talent, and a local food and travel writer is spotlighting that talent. He's also expanded beyond breakfast to write about food, drink, travel, the arts, and family fun. You might already be following him on Instagram, where he is known as Breakfast with Nick. And joining us now to talk about Columbus breakfast and more, we have food and travel writer Nick Decker. Welcome to the show, Nick.
Thank you for having me.
All right, so what made you start writing about breakfast in the first place?
So first and foremost, everyone has that insufferable morning person in their life, and that's me.
That's you.
For my
All right.
family.
Yeah.
Always have been. Even as a kid, I was excited to get up early on Saturday mornings and stuff. So many years ago, this is going on almost 20 years ago now, we were still relatively new to Columbus. This was pre-social media, so that's how old I am. And we were still kind of discovering the city. And one of the things that I really enjoyed finding was when we discover, look at this little diner that we had never heard about, find this old donut shop. And for me, as a writer, as someone who's trained as a historian, I was like, well, we got to document these things. I got to write it down. And so at the time, this was pre-social media, so we all had blogs. We had family blogs. That's how my wife and I kept up with our siblings, our parents, our friends across the country. Is you'd write a little family blog about the garden and pictures of the dog and house renovations and stuff like that. And I said, what if I started a second blog just to document these breakfast places, because this is kind of fun to find these. And my wife said, yeah, go for it. Why don't you do it? So I was like, okay, so I'm going to start a site, and it's breakfast, and it's me. My name's Nick, so I just called it Breakfast with Nick.
And the rest is history.
Yep.
Can you believe where it's gone from there, though? I mean, your
No.
2007 self didn't picture this.
No. So 2007, Nick had just finished his PhD at Ohio State in theater history and dramatic lit. He was starting to lecture at the university, and my goal was to be college professor, was to be the the guy in the tweed jacket walking around with a pipe on campus. And
listeners, just for your records, he's wearing a donut shirt today.
Yeah, you know what? I should have worn my sport coat. I have a pipe at home. I could have brought that. It's, wanted to be like the C.S. Lewis or the J.R.R. Tolkien of breakfast, basically. So, I had no clue it was going to go that way. And the first, I think I've benefited from the fact that the first maybe 2-3 years of it was just totally for fun. There was no agenda behind it. I wasn't paid for anything. It was just, we'd find cool places, and I would take pictures. Sometimes, this is pre, smartphones, so I would carry this DSLR around with me.
And then you had to plug a cord in.
Yeah, and the whole
no.
bring the whole thing out. And that's when it was the only people who were really taking pictures of food at the time were, photojournalists for the newspaper. So I was embarrassed to take my camera out most of these places. So some of my early reviews, I have a very surreptitiously taken photo of the exterior of the restaurant. Nothing of the food, nothing of the inside. And that was it.
All right. So what is your favorite breakfast food? Are you a savory or sweet guy?
I'm very much a savory guy. I love sweet, but I always gravitate towards savory.
Okay. So what are you eating? Eggs, or what are you eating?
Yeah. I love what's often deemed the classic breakfast: eggs, bacon, toast, hash browns. I do love a good eggs Benedict. That's often what I'll test out on a menu the first time going somewhere. Is I always gravitate towards a Benedict. I love a good corned beef hash too.
Okay. There are dozens of amazing breakfast places in Columbus.
Yes.
Is it unfair for me to ask your favorite? I toyed. I was like, how do I ask him his favorite?
I know.
Right?
Yeah. I often defer the question a little bit. I do have some
pivot away.
Yeah. No. I usually say I have a top 5 or so that's always kind of not turning over, but it's it's kind of depending on what we're in the mood for. Some of my favorites, so we live in Worthington. Joyous Cafe is that's one of my favorite breakfasts in Columbus. That usually sits around the number 1 spot. I just love everything they do. It's executed very, very well. There's always a sense of fun to their food. Chef Avishar and his team just always seem to delight in making food. We love the Locke's Bagel Shop. Their pastrami is just to die for. I'm a big fan. There's a little place in German Village Brewery District called Kolache Republic, which is just a little kitchen out of a bar. They're making these Czech-style kolaches, and they make these great little breakfast sandwiches with chorizo and eggs and cheese in them. Let's see. I love South of Lane over in Upper Arlington. Really cute place. Really good waffles, good breakfast burrito there. The Pancake House is a little family-run spot. They have 2 on the north end.
Do you get pancakes there, or do you get the eggs?
I always get both. That's one of the places. I always get it like a chorizo scramble, and then they have a like cinnamon roll pancake that is just to die for.
All right. Well, thank you for actually naming names.
Absolutely.
I wasn't sure if you were going to name names or not. And you know what? And I'll name one because I love avocado eggs Benedict.
Oh yeah.
Right.
Yep.
Like that, and it's such a unique thing. And so Grand Day Cafe in Upper Arlington. That's my favorite place. Have you been there? Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't. It was near where my kids used to go to daycare a long time ago, and I would that would be a special treat occasionally. Avocado eggs Benedict.
It's delightful there.
All right. So you are coming up on 20 years. Can you believe you've been doing this for 20 years?
No. No, I cannot.
Okay. Do you have anything special planned for next year when it's the 20th year of Breakfast with Nick?
That's a good question. So for the 10-year anniversary, we threw a party at the kitchen in German Village, and that was super fun. A bunch of different restaurants brought food. We did a whole bunch of giveaways. A friend of mine surprised me. He wrote a song about Breakfast with Nick and debuted it at the party and stuff.
Cute.
So,
okay.
So we were talking about it, and we said we should do something similar. I feel like we should do a party. I think finding some way to highlight local businesses would be the way, or even raise some money. I'm on the board of Service Relief, which is a nonprofit that supports restaurant industry workers with training and resources. So the thought of like doing a fundraiser for service would be, I think, pretty amazing. So it's like taking shape, but we know we want there to be a party aspect and like a fundraising fun aspect to it.
All right. You have a little time to plan. You're not quite there yet. Okay.
Fortunately, I've got till it was June 4 is the actual birthday. That was the first post I made was June 4, 2007.
Okay. So at first, did you try to keep it purely breakfast? When did you decide to expand to other food and other things?
Yeah, initially it was, that's how I sort of set myself apart, was being the breakfast guy, especially amongst the like early group of bloggers in Columbus. Everyone was sort of finding their niche, and some people were very much like cooking or farmers markets or testing old recipes or visiting certain types of restaurants. And so I delineated myself by being the breakfast guy. So I really did stick with that the first like 4 or 5 years. A couple years in, I started writing for 614 magazine and started writing breakfast pieces. And I would say it was probably about 5 years in or so. And for some reason, I always think of tacos. I remember there was I don't know if we like went to Los Gauchos or something. And I was like, these are really good tacos. It's a nice small business. I like, what's stopping me from writing about it? And you know,
just
as usual,
your name, the
I know.
name Breakfast with Nick.
It was on there. But then I was like, I've been doing this long enough. People kind of know what I'm about, and also like, it's Nick. It's my name on the thing, and Nick can do whatever he wants. So I was like, I'm the
boss.
Yeah. And when I started writing some of those blog posts, but I would title them Beyond Breakfast. So I was like, okay, so I've got to designate that like, hey folks, we're not breakfast here. We're talking about tacos, or we're talking about burgers.
This is Fascinating Ohio from All Sides on 89.7 NPR News, and we are talking about Columbus breakfast and more with Nick Decker, food and travel writer and creator of Breakfast with Nick. So where is most of your engagement now? Is it on Instagram?
Yeah, Instagram is the big thing. So I still write for my site, and that's still chugging along. But Instagram and then Facebook too. I've some good engagement there, but Instagram is really the big driver. I did, a few years back, finally adopt TikTok.
That's what I was going to ask you. Yeah.
And it's
our age demographic tends to not want to turn the corner to TikTok.
Yeah. My wife got into it over the pandemic, and she's very much into books and stuff on TikTok. And then she was like, "You should start posting on here." So reluctantly,
and you were like,
I did. Another channel,
another thing to manage. So on your website, you have a breakfast guide, obviously, right? And then you have a diner guide, a donut guide, a coffee guide.
Yeah.
But you also have a Columbus guide.
Yes.
Do you feel like, are you an unofficial ambassador for the city?
I have thought of myself as that way, because I do get a lot of people who will reach out who have said, oh, we're traveling to Columbus and we found your site or we found your Instagram, and can you recommend these places? We're going to be in this part of town. So yeah, I do think of myself that way of how do I represent the city and wanting people to discover a lot of the businesses and the chefs and owners that we've come to know and love. So yeah, I'm proud to be doing that.
So what are your favorite, I'm going to ask you again a hard question. What are your favorite things about Columbus? Like when someone visits from out of town and they contact you, like what's the top three or five things you tell them?
Yeah. I tell them that we're like a very neighborhood driven city. So to like pick different neighborhoods to explore and spend some time in, whether that's like center of the city, like Short North or Franklinton, whether it's some of the suburbs, like I have to plug, come to Worthington. I tell people that it's fun to like find those little neighborhood identities. I think people are surprised a lot of times by our dining scene. I think we've earned a lot of national attention and we can stand on that. But I try to direct people to, here are some of our best local restaurants. I tell people we have a lot of great parks. Our Metro Park system is just wonderful. And I think a lot of people are surprised by that too, that sort of all over the region, you can find some really amazing places to explore.
We recently did a show about attracting people to downtown Columbus.
Yeah.
And one thing that came up again and again is that the city lacks an identity.
Yeah.
Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I think we're always kind of like finding our way. And I've heard some people say like we need to just stop doing that. Like we don't have maybe some like iconic landmarks like other cities, or we don't have this like this long history like a place like a New York or Chicago might have. It's I think in some ways it's tough to answer that, I think I think we have a lot to like be proud of. I think but it's sometimes hard to like pick like what's that one thing that we're known for aside from like a football team.
Right. Or being the state capital.
The state capital. Yeah.
That little thing.
Yep.
But I also feel like this city loves its neighborhoods. Like German Village loves German Village. Short North loves Short North.
Yep.
You find that too?
Yeah, and again, that's I think one of the strong points for us, and I think that's one way I'll sort of direct people is to like, spend a day in German Village. You can walk around. There's a lot of great businesses. You could eat your way through an entire neighborhood from coffee to lunch to dinner and drinks.
Yeah.
So it's a great way to get to know the city.
So your day job is with the Greater Columbus Arts Council.
Yes.
And then you also call yourself on the side Dr. Breakfast because you mentioned you have a PhD.
I do.
So you are a doctor. Your PhD, though, is in theater history, literature, and criticism.
Yes,
right? I got that right? From Ohio State?
Yep.
I was just curious how your PhD work connects to the work you do now with the GCAC and Breakfast with Nick.
Yeah. That's a very good question. So doing the PhD and writing my dissertation was up there with one of the most difficult things that I did. I had an advisor, the late Tom Postlewaite, who was an amazing researcher and just an amazing professor and was incredibly tough too. So I think learning how to write and how to research under him, I think really benefited me, like knowing how to write concisely and clearly has honestly translated. I mean, there are times where I'm writing blog posts and then I'm thinking like, what would Tom think of this? Like, would Tom he'd tell me to trim this part out or he'd tell me to be more direct in this. So, but I think, in general, when I was at OSU, I taught intro to theater. I led the giant class. So that's where I got students to call me Dr. Breakfast. So it started as a joke, and then a student addressed me as that over email. I was like, oh, it's sticking now. So, so I think having that general knowledge and appreciation of history and literature certainly helps working in the arts today.
So tell me what your job is for GCAC.
So I'm the marketing and communications manager. So I handle a lot of our press and media relations, press releases. I do the social media for the Columbus Arts Festival, June 11 through 13, 2027. So
the dates are known. All right, got it.
Oh yeah. I manage some of our event databases and stuff like that. So it's exciting.
All right. We have just like two or so minutes left. So we're going to do a breakfast. We're going to go back to breakfast for a lightning round.
Oh boy.
Breakfast for dinner. Yay or nay?
Yes.
Yes. And when does brunch begin? When does breakfast end and brunch begin?
Somewhere in the 9 to 10 hour.
9 to 10?
Yeah.
Okay. And best diner for breakfast? You can name more than one. I think you already said one in your list before.
Yeah. One I didn't shout out before, Tommy's Diner is the old classic, the family run. Their Belgian waffles, my favorite. Also, Stav's Diner, which is over on the east side near Bexley. Great little hole in the wall.
Any all-day breakfast places you'd recommend? Is there open more hours for breakfast?
Let's see. I mean, if you're going to go for breakfast and donuts, Buckeye Donuts just up the street from you is always good. Joya's does breakfast all day. I think they're open into the afternoon. Again, the Pancake House, super fantastic.
What happens when you've reviewed every breakfast in Columbus? Well, are you done?
No, I will never hit that saturation point because as things keep closing and then things keep opening too. So my spreadsheet of places to go will never be complete.
Yeah. So let's end on that. How do you keep up with knowing what's open and what's closed? And do you take things off your website if they close?
I will leave things on the website, but I'll update them to show that they're closed. I use literal spreadsheets and notes on my phone. My wife and I have shared collaborative lists of here's places we want to go. Here's what's open. I have my list of what's been announced, what's coming. I have this huge Word document of what's
and not
happening.
just breakfast places.
Not just breakfast places.
You're trying to keep track of all the restaurants.
Yep. Because I write for my site and then I'll write stuff for Columbus Monthly and the Dispatch too. So I'm this is my research.
And do you still consider this your side gig?
Yeah, this is maybe, I know. This is maybe about a third of my time.
Wow.
That I do, and the rest is GCAC.
Well, good luck.
Thank you.
Good luck keeping it up. I hope you get some sleep, but you like the morning, so.
I do.
All right.
I do. I'm up early.
We've been talking about breakfast in Columbus and more with Nick Decker, food and travel writer and the creator of Breakfast with Nick. You can find him on Facebook, Instagram, the internet with his blog, on TikTok apparently, and more. Thanks for joining us today, Nick.
It's been my pleasure.
Coming up, we're going to talk about a book and an organization that teaches resilience even in a time of hardship. That is when Fascinating Ohio from All Sides continues on 89.7 NPR News.